Listen to the scientists and obey the law. Two things that you've been told a lot since the COVID pandemic hit by libs who want you to do something. They pick the scientists you're supposed to listen to. It's always Fauci. Hey, this is what the Fauci says. Listen to me, we're all going to die. The truth is, we are all, in fact, going to die. Some people don't really accept and understand that, I think, which is why they make the public policy decisions they do. But we're all on borrowed time. We're just not all going to die of COVID. Less than 1% of us, actually, are even at any risk of dying from COVID. But nonetheless, we are in the process of ruining the economy and ruining large American cities because of all the fear and panic that the Democrats continue to spread. And they say that the law is the law, and they've taken emergency powers into their hands, which is really an abuse of the law, right? This is essentially the break the glass. Okay, doesn't matter what we were saying before. We just got to get everybody out of the building because it's on fire. Except they've been doing that since March. So we've been in this emergency state in different places across the country for many, many months, which is, this is a little bit like, oh, everybody, you got to empty out of this area. There's a hurricane coming. And then it's like, well, we're going to declare martial law just for a week. Actually, it's going to be until we say it stops. That's what's going on. They just keep extending it. And the greatest example of this I think you can point to, although Cuomo is probably number one, and then Newsom. Number three is Michigan. Governor Whitmer, who at one point was being talked about by the Democrat media as a possible late stage presidential, who knows, maybe she'll be the VP, right? That was what was being discussed for a while. They say the law is the law, right? So Cuomo, for example, says you have to wear a mask. I don't even know in public now, which does that even mean outside? It's not clear to me, but I think it means yes, but I don't. And I've already said, I might get arrested over this at some point. I'm not going to be obviously rude to the NYPD. It's not their fault that they're enforcing this stuff, but I'm not wearing a mask walking outside by myself. There are lines. I am drawing a line. This is where you start to say, well, nullification of the law is the next step here. But we're not supposed to have one person who's making decisions about everything, whether it's your ability to leave your house, your First Amendment rights, your freedom of worship, your freedom of speech, based upon what they claim are the most important health determinations for us. But that's what's happening. And then they say, well, it's the law. You got to obey the law. The law is the law. And as we all know from the history of this country, there are laws that are unjust. That does happen. And laws have to change sometimes. Just because something is the law doesn't mean that it's right. And now you get into some deeper philosophical discussions. But Governor Whitmer, who has been saying you have to do this because I say so and therefore it is the law, has had to figure out, oh, wait a second. Turns out the Supreme Court for the state of Michigan, has said no. In fact, what she is doing is wrong. Play clip one. This is how she responds.
As a result of this action, of the court's action, the legislature's action, our COVID-19 cases could likely go up. There will be uncertainty, there will be disruption, and possibly greater risk to our economy, to our loved ones, possibly more people quarantined and more fatalities. We've seen that happen elsewhere. What this ruling does not mean is that the orders I issued violated the law. Although I disagree with the court's conclusion, they held the law, the 1945 law, unconstitutional, meaning that that legislature 75 years ago didn't have the authority to extend these types of powers to a governor. The court made it clear that I had interpreted this law correctly and utilized my powers.
Yeah, so she liked being a little dictator, and she found a statute that allowed her to be a dictator because she doesn't care about the freedom she's infringing upon. But the court came along and said, well, even if that is in fact the law, guess what? It's still wrong. And that's where we are. We need to start embracing that idea much more broadly here, because all you have from these Democrat governors is, I make the law. I am the law. Well, sorry, actually, the Constitution is the law. The amendments to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, that's also the law. Some little pissant state official doesn't get to decide that the Constitution doesn't count because, in the case of Cuomo, he's desperate to cover up grotesque ineptitude that caused a lot of people to die who would not have died otherwise. So now we're finally seeing the pushback. It happened in Pennsylvania, where a judge said this is unconstitutional, these lockdowns that you have in place here. What was it? Governor Wolf there, right? And it's happened now in Michigan, It's taken a while. The courts don't work very quickly a lot of the time, unless it's a Trump thing. And then the Ninth Circuit, it's like the Ninth Circuit just stays up late at night waiting for some Trump executive order that they can strike down, only to have the Supreme Court say, Trump's allowed to do that. What are you lunatics doing? They don't mind because they're hashtag resistant. It's not about the law. It's about being hashtag resistant. So that's what they do. And Whitmer, in the kind of sanctimony that you continue to see from Democrats, who I keep telling you, be prepared for this. They will never admit that they're wrong. They'll never admit that what they've done is unconstitutional, was counterproductive and incredibly destructive. They'll never admit. It doesn't matter what the data says. Doesn't matter if we find out, in 6 months. Nope, they don't care. So this is, Governor Whitmer. Yeah, she's just like, I'm going to keep you healthy. Oh, sure, play two.
So while the Supreme Court has spoken, and while I vehemently disagree with the conclusion, now is the time for the Republicans in the legislature to come back to town and start showing that they take this crisis seriously too. I'm ready to work with the legislature, but I'm never going to negotiate when it comes to doing the right thing and protecting the people's health. This is a deadly virus that still poses a very real threat. It still preys on our most vulnerable populations. And as your governor, I will continue to use every tool at my disposal to combat COVID-19.
Oh, yeah, she's going to combat COVID-19. Sure she is. Oh, gosh. She was the one that said that you couldn't go from one house you owned to another house you owned. That was not allowed. That was a Whitmer rule during this whole thing. Nope, not allowed. Sorry. Oh, really? And then her husband, you remember this? Her husband was the one that was trying to pressure an official to let him take their family boat out sooner than everybody else could. Like, don't you know who my wife is, kind of a thing? Wasn't that Whitmer, if I recall? I think it was. So, yeah, more hypocrisy, more stupidity, but always going to take the position that they're doing what's right. They're doing what is keeping us all safe. Hey, Team Buck, thank you so much for watching The First on YouTube. If you like this video, please click that little thumbs up button so then it will log as liked. And also, if you want to see more great content from The First, please click subscribe.